All right, hello, rockers, rollers, and proggers. It's the Meister from Brews and Tunes. Cheers. I am so excited today. I am chatting with two members, not one, but two members of the amazing Texas slash Oklahoma prog band Pangea. I'm talking to Andy and Corey Schenk. I said your last name correctly, right? Schenk?
Yes,
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining me, Andy and Corey. I'm so excited to chat with you today. How you doing?
doing great. Thanks for having us on.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, thank
definitely.
you.
Yeah, very excited. Yeah. So I think, I mean, first off, I think we need to go right into the most exciting and important news right now is that you have a brand new album coming out very, very soon, basically in 2 months' time. I believe May 29th, if I got the date accurate. I think I got
Whatever
it
that Thursday is.
right.
Yeah, I believe that's
Um,
correct.
so brand new Pangea album, The Reckoning, comes out on May 29th, or end of May at least.
Yep.
So tell me about the album. I'm on pins and needles. I'm so excited to hear this.
I'm gonna I'm gonna start and just give you a sneak peek. No one except the band has seen this yet,
Oh,
so this is an exclusive. This is the album.
oh, nice. Oh, beautiful.
It's Ronner Kolwitz did the art, the same guy that did Welcome to Theater, Beowulf, Time and a Place. So same artist,
Nice.
same logo. So that is the new one.
Very cool.
So,
Very
sneak
cool.
peek. Is that okay? Did I give away a secret, Andy? Or
No, no, that's good. Yeah.
Very cool.
Happy to share that with Victor.
Yeah, thank you very much. Oh, yeah, I can't wait to hear it. I mean,
should I open it and just show him the inside?
oh, please. Yes, please.
Okay. So
Or let
this is
him have
actually
yeah.
this is the inside.
Oh, nice. That was a double album.
That is a double.
Oh, you
So
you guys just made my day.
so
Seriously. I didn't know it was a double album. That is very exciting. I probably did know that,
so
but
world
I must have
exclusive.
forgotten.
So double album. So
Oh, excellent. Very, very cool. Oh, because I mean, Beowulf, which I can't believe is now 3 years old or close to 3 years
I
old.
don't know, just about a year. Just a year.
Oh, is it just a year? Okay. Yeah,
We put it
that's right.
out
Yeah,
last May.
2024. That's
Last
right.
May.
Sorry. I was
We
thinking.
re we reunited 3 years ago.
Yeah, that's right. Sorry.
That was the reunion. So
Okay. But
yeah.
Beowulf, I should have a copy right
Yep.
here.
Yeah.
Phenomenal, phenomenal album. And one of those things where it's like, okay, how are they going to top this? And I know you will. But yeah, so I'm really excited to hit. Is the new album is the Reckoning kind of in the same vein, or what can you tell me about the songs on the new album?
It's pretty different.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right.
It's Andy, you want to describe it or I mean
Um,
different.
a lot of it goes back to roots we had, in our history. You may have seen something about the name Arctica. So
Yes.
Arctica is when the core members got together before we came to a point where there was another Arctic at the time, so we had to change our name, and that's how we became Pangea. So when we were beginning songwriters and, beginning on our instruments as learning and perfecting our playing, we would write songs and let songs develop however they wanted to develop without putting them in a box.
Hmm.
So sort of as we took more direction, things got shifted. Okay, well, we need to go this direction, and we need the songs that sound like this that can form an album and all sound good together as a solid album. And then what I liked about Beowulf is it kind of shows different sides of the band,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
So you get some sides that are these epic pieces that, are very kind of pull you in, moody kind of music, and then you have some that are a good feeling, almost pop kind of vibe with nice nuances, that still have the progressive rock kind of nuances, but maybe it's a little more friendly of a song that can draw more people in. So we kind of encompass all of that, how I feel. And this album, there's a big story to how it came together, and I'm not sure how much Corey wants to give away at this time of
It's in the
why
liner
this is
notes.
a
It's in the liner notes. So
Okay.
double album. And it's not just a double album. There's kind of a unique twist that I'm not familiar with being on other albums.
Hmm.
yeah.
Like,
Oh, I'm very
and I,
intrigued.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then Corey, you speak some, however much you want to say about it.
Yeah, I mean, we've all, the five of us, and Scott too, we've all been talking, and for us, this album, like Andy said, we're pulling from all of our roots on this, and it's a bit of a different direction, but I don't know, I mean, even though some of the bands I love do this, I don't want us to like every album come out and be like Beowulf Part B, Beowulf Part C.
Right.
I think of artists like the Beatles or Queen, where the next album is nothing like the one you just heard.
Yeah.
When you go from say Rubber Soul to Sergeant Pepper's to the White Album, there's nothing even, they're so different, and Queen does this kind of thing. So this one's pretty different. It's still us. We wrote everything, we're playing everything, and Robert Berry produces it. Same producer, same studio.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but we're just wanted to get some our other things that we had to get out to say are on this record. The way we write, the way we talk, it's got a little more groove to it, I guess, a little groovier. It's not how I word it. So,
Right.
but, yeah.
Very cool. Oh, I can't wait to hear it. I'm very excited. And that's the thing that I love about all your music is it's so unique and every album. I mean, when you hear a Pangea album, it's you, but like as you said, Corey, I mean, I think it's yeah, every album stands on its own. It has its own sound, like the Beatles, like Queen.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you guys have your own thing. It's so my younger brother is a massive prog fan, and he had never heard you. So I introduced, I told him like, hey, you got to check this band out. They're incredible. This is a while back, and he's like, oh, what do they sound like? I'm like, I don't know what to tell you there. I mean, and I probably put this in my when I've done beer pairings with your albums, and I'm always a little remiss doing this, um,
Mhm.
because I hate comparing, but I get certain feelings and remembrances of other bands from your music to
Sure.
some degree, but you don't sound like those bands necessarily. But I get sometimes the same feeling. Like I told him, like,
Mhm.
okay, he's a big Marillion fan. I'm like, if you like Marillion,
Ah,
I think you'll like Pangea. They don't
Right.
yeah.
sound like Marillion, but
Right.
there's that same I mean, one, just the musicianship. I mean, just incredible musicianship. But then also there's and the complexity and the depth of the music. But there's also this, and I don't want. Hopefully, this doesn't come across wrong. There's a comfort to your music for me. Not to say that it's like easy to listen to. I mean, it's very complex. There's a lot going on. You have to sit and listen to it. But it brings me. I guess it just brings me a lot of joy listening to your music. It's very uplifting. Even
Thank
some
you.
of your darker passages, there's still this. It's I don't know. It's a very human.
It's dark with hope.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it just connects really well with me. I mean, it's just something I put on, and I just
Mm.
it's just joyful to listen to. And that's kind of what I tried to explain to him, which probably he was like, "What the hell are you talking about?" So, but I'm like, just check it out. It's really incredible. And that's the thing I would say with everybody, especially those of you watching right now, is yeah, go to Bandcamp, go to Facebook, go to YouTube, check out Pangea. Especially if you're a prog fan, you will absolutely love this band. I mean, if you're not familiar, which hopefully you already are.
Mhm.
But yeah, so I can't wait for the new album then. If yeah, as every album you guys have done, I love the shifting and the changing and yeah, like you said with Beowulf, I mean, yeah, no song sounds the same. There's a lot going on the album. Um and I mean, uh an example I guess would be with Necromancer, um the beginning where you have the acoustic and then it goes right into that electric with that's almost jarring a little bit, but like in a good way because it's that tone is fascinating. Like
Mm.
it kind of the first time I heard it, I'm like, whoa, what is that? Like and that's what I mean by jarring, not
Yeah.
in
Right.
a bad way, but it just like kind of threw me, which I love
Good.
that. I love challenging music, and I think you
Yeah.
guys do a really good job of that. But at the same time, as a this kind of duality where it's uh also comforting. So does that make any sense? I'm kind of
It
rambling.
does. Yeah, and actually,
Yeah.
I appreciate that you made that connection to that song for the sound because I wrote that song. The acoustic part is kind of our connection to like the natural world and nature.
Hmm.
And when the heavy metal guitar, if you want to call it, and the B3 come in, that's kind of technology and politics and religion, and it's this artificial world we create as humans. It's not the natural world. So
Interesting.
that's kind of what that song is about. It's when we go to the acoustic world, it's the refuge, and then Steve sings about some political things and some religious things and some technological things and the heavy parts. And that's kind of what that song is. The approach is. So if it jarred you out of that natural world, that's to me that I take that as I did something right, I guess, when I came up with the idea.
I think you
So,
did something very right. I think that's yeah, and that's I don't want to say it's my favorite song on the album, but there's a it might be my favorite song. I mean, because every song is just a gem. I mean, it's really and I love the transitions and like we said, I mean, it's such a every song sounds very different. I mean, it sounds like Pangea, but it's a very different song. It's a very different approach. Um, yeah, it's just fascinating to me. I think, and that's one thing I love about your band. I think it's not just the songs, but I mean just the overall sound. You guys have so much going on. So that's I guess that's my next big question is the influences that you have, which I would imagine are many.
yeah.
But yeah, so I guess that's a question for both of you. Like
Yeah.
for you as musicians, who have been your influences or what bands, what drummers or keyboard players or guitar players or you know
Yeah. Yeah.
songwriters?
For me, I first saw the band Asia on MTV, like when I was like 11. They were the time will tell, heat of the moment. And the internet wasn't a thing, of course, and I didn't know. And then I started finding out from other people, oh, these guys have actually been around. You should check out where they came from because
Hmm.
I didn't know Yes and ELP and King Crimson existed. So for me, Asia was a huge influence because for me, they were the doorway to like finding that same sound but big and developed. Where like the diehard fans, I hear something complain about, oh, Asia's the watered down pop version. I'm like, to me, it was the opposite. It was like I heard this great rock band and then said, oh, you could hear these same guys do, 6, 8, 20-minute songs, and I was like, whoa. And so for me, it's a lot of the British prog of that period. The ones I mentioned, Pink Floyd, Genesis. I just love that stuff, and of course the others too. The Beatles are a huge one for me, Led Zeppelin. But well, actually, I think I just named only British bands.
Yeah.
Like I do like Kansas. Kansas is a good American band for me,
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I think that was kind of my thing. And as a kid, before I was into that stuff, I remember the first records I bought on vinyl with my lawnmower money. I bought the soundtrack to Star Wars, the first movie, and Kraftwerk, the Man Machine.
Oh wow.
Those my first two records. Our uncle had shown us Kraftwerk, and I got into that. So that was kind of an early influence that way. So
Fascinating.
Yeah, and if I could say something about the influences, I think that really ties in to this new release coming.
Hmm.
So the new release kind of ties to some of our other influences and where we come from. So kind of like Corey saying Asia led him to King Crimson and UK and these other bands where these guys came from. To me, this new release is going to show some of the sides of where, the guys in Pangea, we all meet at liking Rush and Pink Floyd in Asia. We all gel on that, and that's kind of where it all comes together. But a lot of our backgrounds are different. When I was a kid growing up down here in Houston, I country music. I got into rock and roll in junior high school, but then I recall the first 45 single I had was Donna Summer on the radio. And it's like an old R&B tune.
Yeah.
And for me, that helps me. I really relate to Genesis and Phil Collins, because they tie back to those old R&B roots, and Phil Collins doing a Supremes tune on "Hello, I Must Be Going," so kind of pulling back from some of that. So some of our backgrounds are from singer-songwriter kind of influences, a band like America,
Oh,
and
great.
then I really get into the groove stuff, which helps me as a drummer. So as a prog drummer, I'm not a real what I call busy drummer. I don't have the sort of the jazz blood of being real busy. And, I really like finding the pocket and being in the groove, which is why for the prog side, I get into the Pink Floyd, the Asia, those guys, they're finding the drum and the rhythm and the groove that fits the song
Yeah.
and not having to prove a musical ability on your instrument,
Right.
and so to me, that's what I feel this album coming up. It kind of ties to some of the other sides of where some of us are coming from in music.
Nice. Yeah, I was gonna say your drumming, Andy. And I'm not a musician, so for lack of a better, it just swings. That's what I
Mm.
love about your drumming is it swings. Yeah, it's not busy, but yeah, you've got this groove, and it seems like every hit is very intentional. Like what you're doing, there's an intent to how you play, which I really like that, rather than like, hey, check out how fast I am. Um, you know.
Right. Yeah. I appreciate that. I really appreciate that. And a lot of that also comes from, being Corey's younger brother. He got so deep into music and music theory, and he kind of pulls me some of that way. And sometimes he will give me a musical drum idea and then tell me, now you make it work for a drummer. This is the kind of feel I want, but you put it on a drum kit. Actually knowing Robert Berry for 30 years doesn't hurt either, so those studio projects with him. And yeah, I don't want to throw something in there that's just going to be frivolous, just something to, hey, look what I can do kind of thing. I want it to fit the groove and feel the music.
Nice.
Yeah, and I think that really is the whole band.
Yeah.
From every guitar note you hear to the keyboard chord I play, to Ron's bass, to Steve's vocal, even to the lyrics we sing. We really do. I mean, I don't want to sound, weird about this, but we think about every note and lyric that we play.
Hmm.
And we're not trying to show off technically. We're just trying to find the right thing for that song. And we're all very careful about that. I mean, all of us, Steve he's a trained opera singer. He actually sings in the Tulsa Grand Opera,
That's right.
and he's done this. I mean, and he's a Frank Sinatra fan, but he knows what is right for the right song. And I think we all approach that. And when we write a song, I mean, we have something like, what is it, Month of Sundays is 2 minutes long, and then
Yeah.
Necromancer and Sape are like over 9 minutes or something. So we kind of just write where the song wants to go, and we try to all put everything we can into that song that makes the song better. Not maybe doesn't make us look better as a technical ability to make the song better.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. Steve always says this too. We're very song oriented for a prog band.
Yeah.
More than say, I mean, we can all play, but I think more than say musicianship all the time, it's really about just the songs we have, and that's kind of that's our focus, and then the other stuff is added in there as well.
Yeah. And that's the rhythm section that you spoke with. I'm sorry. You spoke with Ron, and Ron's very good at locking down that bass right with that drum, so we like to keep the solid foundation for the other guys, and Corey's absolutely right. Everything's intentional.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it seems like you guys, yeah, have a very artistic approach to songwriting as well, where, yeah, like you said, Corey, yeah, it's not about necessarily, I mean, you're fantastic musicians, but it's not about showmanship so much as it is about, yeah, song structure and,
right.
Rather than like,
that's what we all like. We like to write songs and play the songs we like. So that's what we're doing,
and you do a damn fine job at it. I will say. So,
thank you.
Yeah. Again, I can't wait for this new album. I'm so excited for it. Yeah. Speaking of which, and I don't know if you're at liberty to say, or if do you have are pre-orders going to be available soon? When can people start ordering the new album?
Oh, I don't know. Have we thought on that yet? How we want to do that?
It's been mentioned. We haven't really decided on pre-orders yet.
Okay.
So something in the
We'll
works.
probably
maybe.
start like early May would be my guess, mid-May, early May.
Okay, cool. Cool.
As we get closer to the date, because on the 29th we'll be playing at the Oklahoma Music Hall of Fame, and that's Thursday.
Oh.
And it's instead of playing at the museum this time, we're actually playing at the Muskogee Civic Center. And we'll be playing there and releasing the record, and of course we'll have all the old records there too.
Nice.
And when the reckoning's released, it's going to be available for download, of course, and thumb drives, but also the double CD, and the vinyl is going to be a triple vinyl. So to
my
fit the
next
songs,
question.
to fit the
Vinyl.
song, yeah, it'll be on vinyl.
Awesome. I'm a
But
vinyl junkie, so I'm excited. That is awesome. That is great news. That's very cool. And you're playing on the 29th, so big giant release party.
yes,
So anybody local or otherwise definitely should go there and see this
yes,
because that's going to
yeah.
be incredible. So will you have a set list already kind of planned out as far as what you're
We
going to
were we were playing that about 30 minutes before we got online with you.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, Steve and Ron are actually in Houston right now, so we're rehearsing all weekend. So
Oh, great.
yeah,
Very
they got in last night. You can probably see the unmade bed on the floor behind me. It's an air mattress one of the guys is sleeping on. Well, not at this moment, but he was sleeping there last night.
okay.
So yeah, they're in town, and we're working on the set right now. So
Very cool. Very cool. Nice. I also love the fact that you've got Welcome to the Theater and Rites
oh
of
yeah,
Passage artwork
definitely.
behind you.
Yeah.
That's very cool too. Is that
Those are the
your,
original paintings. Those aren't copies. Those are the originals.
I was just about to ask you if those are the originals. That's
They are.
awesome. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, such
And
a
I
great one.
actually, you can't see it, but on the wall where the computer is time and a place.
Nice.
It's right over there. And then we do also have the Reckoning painting and the Beowulf one as well. So we have those as well. Andy has those, so we
Very
have all those as well.
Yeah.
oh,
And our younger brother actually painted the red one from the Rite
Yeah,
of
he did the
Passage.
red one.
So
oh,
he did
nice.
that
Very
artwork.
cool. Very cool. Is he also a musician?
Yes.
Oh, nice.
Mhm.
Has he asked to be in the band and you're like, no? Just
We,
kidding.
we played with him for a little while at one time, but he kind of has his own style. He's a lot younger than we are, so he kind of has his own influences and passions with music. So he kind of has put his own projects together over the years doing his stuff.
Oh, good for him.
Yeah.
That's great.
He and I actually did a electronic project with Robert Berry.
Oh,
So
nice.
we did some tracks of that.
Yeah.
His music is called Glass Shadows.
Gosh,
So it's yeah, it's
I
some
will
pretty
check that
interesting,
out.
it's very cool stuff.
Yeah, I will look into that. Speaking of Robert Barry, how did you guys originally connect with him? How did this all start? Because I mean, he's been integral in the
Yeah.
formation of the band as well, and the
Oh
sound
yeah.
of the band.
Yes. So back in '95, we had been working. We worked in a studio in Oklahoma. We had a really good experience with the producer there, and then we worked in Nashville, and the experience wasn't quite so good, and we felt we lost some money, and we were sitting around, and Robert called us, and it was through a mutual fan. There was a guy in Tulsa who used to come to all of our shows, and he knew Robert, and he knew Rick Wakeman and John Wetton. He talked to all these people,
Oh wow,
and basically he sent Robert an EP we had recorded with 4 songs, and Robert approached us saying he liked what we had and heard potential, and then if I get this right, Andy, correct me if I'm wrong. We flew out to his studio in April of '96 just for like 3 days because we wanted to see, were we as good as he thought, or did we even like him? Was there any kind of connection whatsoever? So we just paid for 2 or 3 days in the studio. We recorded a 3-song demo, and we are like, yeah. And so that July and August, we were back out there for like 15 days recording Rite of Passage, and that's how it started.
It's
And
actually, oh, go ahead, Corey. Sorry.
it was just, we clicked right away with him. It was just an immediate, thing. So
I was gonna say with that 3-song demo that we recorded, that was our first trip to Soundtech working with Robert Berry. And I remember back then, there was still analog cassette tape. And when
yeah,
we were recording that album, that was all 2-inch tape, reel to reel. There was no Pro Tools at that point.
right?
But it was so cool when we got that first demo. We go sit out in the minivan out in his Soundtech Studios parking lot. We just plugged that in because you get a great sound out of a car stereo.
Yeah.
And we plugged in that demo and we're just like,
yeah.
I mean, I don't want to say the swear words we said to each other, but it's just like, holy crap.
Daryl used a word that if I replace it with a curse word from Battlestar Galactica, he was like, frack. So yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. And and actually Andy's right. The first 3 records with Robert were all on 2-inch tape. So that's all, it is played in time and in tune. There was no computer to fix anything we messed up. So
Yeah. 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 Do you have I'm curious because I would imagine, I mean, now it's probably not, I don't know if easier is the right word, but in terms of, just the technology now, recording technology, is leaps and bounds above. But it seems like there was such a warmth, like you said, I mean, you couldn't fix anything,
Yep.
but it was, it was what it was, but it was very on, and that's how, everybody before Pro Tools played.
Yep.
Is there a What are your thoughts on? I'm curious what, as musicians, like, how do you feel about the technology? Do you like it? Does it work for you? Or is there ever any like, oh, I kind of, harken back to the old days of, that warmth of the analog?
Yeah.
I I the Pro Tools to me, we have a home studio set up where we do our basic tracks, so when we're writing and recording, it's a great tool. So I love Pro Tools for that, and I got actually a version that was recommended by Robert Berry to use because years ago, my system is 15 years old now, and it was actually a studio type mixer. So I actually have a Pro Tools mixing console. I'm not even sure if they still offer that anymore because it was a smaller home version.
Okay.
So it's a great tool, but as a musician and appreciating music, I miss the 2-inch tape. I love the warmth of analog that you actually lose in digital, no matter how much processing you put on it. So I appreciate the use of it as a tool, but I really like vinyl 2-inch tape, getting that real recording warmth.
Yeah.
And all these people that do recordings in home studios, that's all great, but there's still definitely something to say for going to a studio, and getting in that vibe with a producer that is a real producer like a Robert Berry.
With a good room with the right
Yeah,
acoustics. Yeah.
because you can be a great musician recording at home, but you need that outside influence that has an objective opinion to really bring it out of you.
Yeah. 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 And it seems like he has such a good ear.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, I agree. I think I mean, I think it's really cool and it's wonderful that, you know, because there's so many great musicians out there that, and now with, that will never, probably would never have been discovered, but now they have, they have the technology that they can do something at home and get out there and put it out there. And the record companies are not like the monster corporations that they used to be, and anybody can really produce something if they want to. And I like that idea. I like the DIY aspect of
Yeah.
music, but like you said, to have a professional producer that knows what they're doing and can really elevate that sound. Um, yeah, and still have, even though in this digital world, I think that's one thing about there is a warmth to your music. Even in a CD package, a digital package, it's still there's a lot of warmth to your music. And the thing, I need to see you live. I have, because I mean, live music for me is
Oh, yeah.
heaven.
Yes.
And that's where it's kind of the real, that's, proof is in the pudding,
Yeah.
rubber meets the road kind of, like, live music is where it's at for me.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, so I definitely, when you mentioned the show on the 29th, I'm like, okay, how do I get to Tulsa?
Yeah. Actually, the 29th, we're going to be just south of Tulsa. Muskogee's about 45 minutes south.
Oh, okay.
And then on the 31st, Saturday, we are in Tulsa. We're
Okay.
playing a place called the Tulsa Little Theater.
Nice.
So we're going to be in that corner of Oklahoma for the whole weekend, like Thursday through Saturday. So
Nice.
we'll be there 2 days.
Cool. Cool.
Yeah.
Um, Now I know, to switch gears a little bit. I know you've talked about this a lot, and it's on your website. Well, one thing I really love about your website is especially the history of the band is on, and it's very in depth, which is
Yeah.
really cool. And there's a lot of great interviews on there as well. And I know you've talked about this, and it's on the, but I would love to know more about how the band came into being. And I know, the original, Arctica, and how you guys met, how it all, because you have such a unique sound. I'm really curious how that sound developed. I guess that's kind of that's what I'm curious about, is the not just how you met, but how the sound developed from those initial days.
Yeah. Well, Andy and I, of course, brothers, and our first band was like a cover band, doing top 40 kind of Night Ranger, Huey Lewis songs, things like that, with some friends of ours. And Ron and I knew each other in high school. We actually played soccer together. He was a goalkeeper and I was a midfielder. That's how we knew each other. And I knew he played guitar and bass. And we just always talked. He played with some other people. And of course, Andy and I had people. And then when high school was over, we looked to kind of redo the band and do our thing, not just play cover songs. And we tried some stuff with other people and, got our feet wet and worked some things out. It just wasn't quite there yet. And then one day I just called Ron and said, "You want to come play with us?" And he became the bass player. And at that same time, I was in community college in Oklahoma. And that's where I met Steve and Daryl and another guy named Keith Tinker. And we all talked. And for the first year, we just knew each other. We sang in the choir together. We took theory and history classes together and whatnot. And then that was all like 87, 88. And then in 89 is when we got together. And everybody, Daryl had a different band and Keith did his thing and Steve was doing his thing. And we all got together in 89. And so we already knew each other. And then we finally decided to play together. And I'm not going to say it was like, anything fantastic the first day, but there was already that chemistry there. And that's what we always talk about is, we have a chemistry and if any one of us is missing, the chemistry is lost. You can't replace one of us, I think. And you could probably find technically a better keyboardist than I am by far, or, a better whatever, but it's not what it's about, and when we met in Dallas 3 years ago, that was the big thing. Like everybody was like, well, do we want to do this or not? Hold on, my dogs are going crazy. And I think, somebody said, we weren't going to do it unless it was the five of us. If any one guy was like, I can't do it now for whatever reason, we were just going to put it on hold again.
Okay. Because you guys tried to get back together earlier and it didn't work out, right?
Right. We tried a couple of times. One got really close in 2013, really close. And just different things happen, So.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's, you've been got families and jobs and
right.
all that, and it's not easy, I would imagine.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's that. I mean, yeah, like I said before, I think what I love about you guys have such a unique sound. And yeah, I was just kind of, I've always been curious, like, with a band, like how that sound comes into being, which I don't even know if there's a way to put a finger on that exactly. I mean, did you all have kind of a similar vision or did it just sort of happen?
I think a lot of it, Corey and Ron and I, since I was the younger brother and they knew each other in school, it started out, the three of us, we would get together all the time, weeknights and weekends. And sometimes it would just be somebody to start playing a riff. And then we'd all kind of creep in and start playing it, and I think that was kind of the basis of developing that gelling together, and that just really starting it. So Ron, Corey, and I, and we worked, as Corey said, with some other guys doing cover songs and then starting the originals. So Ron was with us when we were doing some of those cover songs by Survivor and other bands at that time, and then when Corey met Keith, and this is kind of the way I see it from the younger brother being the guy sitting there playing drums, waiting for guys to join the band. Corey met Keith and Daryl and Steve in the music theory at junior college, and when Keith came in, he was a couple of years older than us, and he was a big Kansas fan. So he comes in with his old Hohner keyboard, one that has like the box case where you just put the lid on top of it and it folds up like a piece of luggage.
Right.
So, but man, it had a great sound, and we started practicing almost like the Beach Boys. We're crammed into my bedroom with all of us crammed in there, and Keith's actually playing his Hohner keyboard sitting on my bed while, one of the guys is like sitting on top of my clothes dresser, because we're crammed in our parents' house there and that's kind of where it started coming together, and the whole story of the band, we took it as far as we could, pressing it, and just what I'm kind of working on a sum up of our story because I think it's kind of unique. We're we're like a rock band. We met in school, almost like the Bryan Adams song says, you try real hard and things fall apart, life gets in the way. And then what's crazy to me is 20 years later, we all have the opportunity to our lives to bring it back together and try and make it work again,
Yeah.
so to me it's really I don't know if that's a common story. I haven't heard of another band that that kind of went on hiatus and then comes back almost 20 years later with all the original members, and
Yeah.
boom, you immediately have new albums coming out. It's like we just picked up right where we left off.
Yeah,
And
that's
I almost feel like we're in a better position now than we were.
And
yeah.
I think we can safely say for our reunion, unlike a lot of great bands in the past who reunited, there was no one behind the scenes saying, "Hey, if we get together, we get all this money and a world tour and blah blah blah," and we'll do. It was nothing like that. Like everybody was like, missing fame, fortune. It was nothing like that because it was just the fact we missed each other and playing together, and
Yeah.
that's just true. And we wanted to write songs again and play together. And so for us, it's there was no ulterior motive. It was about us playing as a band and doing our music. That's all there is to it. There's nothing
Yeah,
else for
love,
it.
love for the music. Yeah, that's the thing that I think is amazing is yeah, I mean, yeah, 18 years apart or thereabouts, and to
Yeah,
come back with
yeah,
this incredible album, and even though it definitely stands on its own, it's a continuation of what you had been doing. I mean, it was, it's a very natural progression
mhm,
of your sound, I
yeah,
think, and it's obviously a Pangea album. It's that's but yeah, to think that like, whoa, that's 18 years apart, and yeah, like you said, I think that's a beautiful thing. The fact that it's not just the core member, it's the original members. It's everybody that was in the band back that got back together
yeah,
and is like full bore ahead. Let's do
yeah.
this, back. Um, yeah, what was the impetus of that? What kind of what
Oh,
was there a certain moment where you just like, damn it, we have to do this. We got to
yeah,
get back
kind
together.
of. Yeah, I mean, we talked about it before. Like I said, in 2013, even before that, and even somewhere in between, we had talked about it. And certain guys were like, "Well, I got all this stuff going on. I can't do it right now." And through texts and emails and phone calls, but we always stayed in touch. I mean, we never shut each other out or I mean, in sometimes it could be, months before we spoke, but we were always talking about it and everybody always wanted to do it, and then finally we just said, I think it's time to pull the trigger, and like Andy said, it just, the stars aligned and everybody had that window of time they could do it. That's really what it was.
Nice. Yeah. And it seemed like, I mean, so that was 2021, 22-ish.
22, I think. 22 this summer.
Okay. Did so you must have, you got back to, and you must have started writing the album fairly quickly after getting back together, right? I mean, did it just kind of
Yeah.
gel like, hey, we need to do something like
Well, yeah, I
really
think
working?
we talked about just getting together, learn the old stuff, and play a couple shows maybe. And I, for years, already been working on new songs because I knew the band was going to get together again one day. I just did, and I already been working on new stuff. And then Andy and Steve said they had some new stuff, and we said let's go record. So we called Robert, and he was as ecstatic as we were, to work with us again. So everybody was fired up. I mean, and it wasn't just Robert. It was the five of us and Robert. It was our vocal coach Tom Duell. He did the vocals on every record. The same artist on most of the records, Runner Colwitz. We're using the same logo we've had now. It was the whole team got back together again. It wasn't just a few band members. It was everybody,
Wow.
including the studio team. It was everybody.
That's really cool. And that has to be a rarity. I mean, really, I don't know. I've never heard of anything like that. There's, bands that have gotten back together and it's, like you said before, it's usually not the entire band, but the fact that, I mean, you've got the album artist, the producer, the crew. I mean, I've never heard of that before. That's really fascinating. That's incredible. And inspiring. That's really inspiring too. That's really cool. That's amazing.
Yeah,
Um, uh, I did want to ask, and again, I'm sorry, I kind of jump around.
it's fine.
This goes. Let's take a ride in the Wayback Machine. Um, I'm curious about the beginnings of you both musically. Did you come from a musical family? I'm guessing yes, maybe, because I mean, you both and your younger brother are all musicians. So yeah, I'm kind of curious, where did this all start, as far as you, like childhood, starting to play.
I was a late bloomer.
Hmm.
Like, I mean, really, I mean, we grew up, our parents listened to classical music and rock. I mean, the Beatles, the Beach Boys, the Stones, but Wagner, Beethoven, and Chopin, and other stuff as well. So we grew up hearing that, but I never had any kind of musical training or lessons at all as a kid. And I got my first guitar towards the midway point of my senior year of high school.
Oh wow.
So I was 17 and started taking lessons, and I was terrible. And I played out of tune at a talent show, and I knew like I knew like two or three chords, not and couldn't play them that well. And I kept working on lessons, and then the next fall I went to the community college and started taking music classes. So I was, as far as any kind of formal training, I was very much a late bloomer.
Oh, interesting.
But I just loved it, and there were some things I picked up very quickly, and other things I struggled at. I had to really work hard at. So
You mentioned if we were a musical family. So in our house, our mom she played piano. So we always had a piano in the house. And then Corey actually inherited our grandmother's, is it a baby grand? What is it? A student
petite grand,
grand,
it's a petite grand, yeah.
a petite. Okay. But that was our grandmother's piano when she was a little girl taking
Oh, wow.
lessons, and then our great grandmother's, one of her sisters used to be one of the piano players that played along with the silent movies. So
Oh,
there's a line there of, not extraordinary musicianship maybe, but people that always had the love for music. And I think
Yeah.
even on our dad's side, I think he may have played cello when he was real young, but he didn't speak a lot about that.
hmm.
Yeah.
But when, kind of like Corey said, being a late bloomer, I didn't start playing drums, obviously, until my older brother started playing guitar. So I'm a few years younger than him, so I just got started a little earlier, but I remember the way that I joined music and joined his band. He was rehearsing for that talent show he mentioned out in the garage with some of his friends from high school. Their drummer had to go to work one evening at his steak and ale job, so one of the other guys in Corey's band said, "Hey, can your kid brother keep a beat?" It's like, no. So I just went and sat out there and I was horrible, but I knew what the foot pedal did and I knew which drum did what, and I was able to just keep a tempo and keep a beat so they could practice. And that was my first time sitting on a drum kit, was a drum set that Corey's band had borrowed from another friend of his that was out in our parents' garage.
Mhm.
And then you just got hooked.
I got hooked, and then at that
He
time we
actually
had
he
a
played the talent
horse.
show with us.
Yeah, yeah, right. Yeah. You'll have to tell the story of, yeah. Chris had a conversation with their drummer at Steak and Ale and said something like, "Hey man, you had to go to work, so sorry, but Corey's kid brother sat in, you're fired, and we're taking him to the talent show," which I'm not sure that was the great choice, but it worked out well for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of my beginning on drums. When Corey was shopping for guitars when I was his little brother, I'm like, "Hey, I kind of like bass guitars. Maybe I'll do that." But wound up being drums, and I'm happy with that.
Nice. Nice. That's very cool. Um, yeah, I'm always fascinated like how it all begins for musicians because it's always I'm out it's never what I expect. And especially with the influences too. It's never what I expect. I mean, yeah, there's some where like, okay, they must have been into this band because
Mhm.
there's this certain sound, or technique. But then there's always I think it's really interesting when I remember reading about you guys way back and I think I read an interview with one of you, and it might have been you, Andy, and saying that, country music, and I'm like, country music? Like what? It's a prog band. But then like when you really listen to your music, like I can hear it now. It took me a little while to get there, but
Mhm.
I'll hear certain songs, certain passages, I'm like, oh yeah, I can see that. I can sense the like that Texas
Yeah.
outlaw vibe a little bit sometimes.
Right.
And Steve has a lot of that influence as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
He does as well. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there's I can't I I wish I could think of the song. There's a song, it's one of your earlier songs, one of your older albums.
Mm.
And I was listening to it the other day and it clicked for me finally, where I was like, oh, if this song did not have keyboards and it was a little slower tempo, this would be a really cool country song. Like I can hear it. Like it took me a minute, but then I kind of heard the vibe a little bit, like, oh wow, yeah, okay. And it's like old school country is what I heard.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I wish I could think of what the song was. I can't think of what the song was, but um
Right.
yeah,
I think I think too, for the band's influences, for all of us, we have a huge variety of influences.
mm,
Ron will tell you he grew up loving Kiss. Well, he also liked Genesis and Chicago. And Daryl liked ZZ Top as much as he liked Rush. And not just that. I mean, we all love classical music. Ron was a jazz trumpet player at one time,
oh wow.
and so I love Stravinsky and Bartok and Berg as much as I do Yes and ELP. And I think for us as a whole, the five of us, we all like different music in every genre. Because I think all of us would say this: there is good music in every genre, and there's
Yeah,
bad music in every genre.
right.
I don't think we have any genre we just turn off on.
Yeah.
I really don't. I think every genre out there, some of us like something in it.
Yeah, and that's what I love about, yeah, the more I listen to your music, especially if I really sit down and really listen, like, yeah, there's so many different influences and so much going on. Yeah, I was telling, like I told you earlier, I was telling my brother about your band and trying to, and it's always hard to put, especially something complex, like complex music into words, but yeah, trying to explain to him like just my obsession with your band and how much I love the band and what I'm hearing. And I mentioned, like Marillion, and I said, yeah, of course there's like Rush elements, there's all the prog elements, but then I told him
Mhm.
like, no, there's also like AOR and
Mhm.
yeah, this tiny
Pop and
little,
folk and
yeah, folk and a little bit of country, like things that you're kind of unexpected, and it's
yeah.
not necessarily in your face, but it's there. And I think that really, kind of blossoms into something that's so unique. And yeah, no, like I said, nobody sounds like you. That's another thing that I love about your music is it's so
Thank you.
unique. There's no bands that I've never heard anybody that sounds like you. And
Thanks.
I mean, I'm sure there's some copycats out there somewhere, but um, yeah, I've never heard anything like it. It's incredible. Um, well, guys, this has been an absolute joy chatting with you tonight. Thank you so very much. For those of you watching, keep an eye out. The Reckoning, brand new album from Pangea. It's going to be amazing. I know it. Comes out May 29th. Check out their website. I've got links below. You can check out their website, check out their YouTube page. Just incredible music. If you're a prog fan or just a fan of just amazing music in general, then definitely check out Pangea. You will not be sorry. So again, thank you so much, guys. Cheers. I really appreciate your
Thank
time.
you.
Yeah,
Hey,
absolutely.
we appreciate being on here, and that when people connect to our music, I think that's a positive for us, because you know that's why we do it. We want people to find something to connect to. So I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
yeah. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you for your time.
Yeah.